Changing minds, changing lives. The Liaison and Diversion Diaries. A podcast run by frontline workers discussing all things criminal justice in relation to multiple and complex needs. Our Liaison and Diversion service supports people with vulnerabilities in custody, courts, prison and the community, helping to bridge the gaps for people accessing services. We are a service of the Birmingham and Solihull Mental Health Foundation Trust. Tune in for our monthly podcast where we will feature guests from all walks of life discussing issues affecting us in the here and now.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Changing Minds, Changing Lives, the Liaison and Diversion Diaries. Today we'll be talking about passion, the mindset of L&D and the team ethos. I'm joined in the studio today with
Samir Iqbal,
Matt Brayshaw,
Cleve Armstrong,
Binal Patel.
Okay, so let's get started. How did you all start your journey with L&D?
Wow, I think I'm the one who started nearest the beginning, so shall I start?
a veteran.
I'm a veteran. My journey started about 5 years ago, and it was a secondment opportunity. So I used to work at a medium secure unit, already working with people with forensic histories, offending, mental health, and obviously substance misuse came into that as well. And I saw this opportunity and I wanted to gain more experience in community work, learning about more that was outside of this bubble that I'd been working in for so long. Took that opportunity up and I never looked back and never went back to the wards. I absolutely, it's something completely different to what other teams do. The people we work with, staff and clients, it's just so different. In a ward, you're in this bubble where you don't see the outside world, and the people that are living on these wards, they get as far as having community leave and going to hospital appointments, and then they're back in this bubble again. And I didn't even realise that there were so many services out there, especially third sector services, that did so much for people with vulnerabilities. So when I joined Liaison and Diversion and it's like slowly started growing and growing, I just couldn't believe the number of opportunities there were there for staff and patients and clients. So, yeah.
So I think I'm a veteran as well in this room. I think.
Getting in order, yeah.
Yeah, going in order. So I've been a part of, my name is Samir Iqbal, so I've been a part of the Liaison and Diversion service for the past 3.5 years. I first started as a peer mentor for the Liaison and Diversion service. Basically, I was in and out of the criminal justice system for many years, and I had that passion when I changed my life around that I want to help others. So I got employed through third sector shelter as a peer mentor, and we was working with the most kind of complex individuals that were recognised through the Liaison and Diversion service that were quite chaotic and entrenched in that lifestyle. But there was that gap in provision in the sense that from an engagement perspective, because the practitioners were seeing them, they weren't getting much out of these individuals because of the complexity and the way the mindsets of these individuals were. Hence why we were employed to work with them, complex individuals, and support through into the community from police custody and courts. So that's a bit of my background, and I've moved on since then, and now I'm a support and recovery worker for the prison liaison service, a part of the Liaison and Diversion service.
Shall I jump in next then?
Yeah.
Am I the next one in line? Okay. Yeah, I started my journey with L&D probably, well, I've been with them now 2 years almost, but it probably started about 5 years ago. In the sense is when I was on my own little journey, I did a lot of therapy and stuff, and then I was deciding I needed to make the next steps forward. And I come across this opportunity to work in this CAF, which was run by people recovering from mental health. It was called Food for Thought. It was in Stafford. And I went there and it was a really interesting place to go. It was like a non-profit organisation in a sense. It was used by the public, and it used basic foods really, like breakfast, sandwiches, that sort of stuff. But it was for people that were like recovering from the mental health. Some were a lot further in the journey than others. It was a really, really interesting place. You'd see somebody come in really struggling, really quiet and stuff like that, and then 6 months later with work they've been doing, they'd be in the kitchen cooking breakfast or serving the turn and stuff like that. It was really, really good place to be. You could see how people fitted in there and they felt like they would belong somewhere. And I was there for 18 months, I think. Unfortunately though, it got closed due to funding. I pulled the plug on it. To me, it was okay because I was sort of like a bit further in my recovery journey, but others, it was really, really difficult for them. And there was probably like 30 or so people that used this place. and there's nothing else available for them. Well, once that ended, I'd obviously got this desire, to do more. And I just wanted to continue to do what I was doing because, I felt I was making a difference in it and using my own experience, so to speak, to get there. And that's when I come across SOVA, another organisation. I think it was called Support of Vulnerable Adults. And I got involved with through the GATE system within the criminal justice system, but also the independent visitors, which is with kids in care, because I'd been in care myself also, and also I've been part of the criminal justice system. And I spent about 3 years with them, learning all sorts of stuff, doing some training and stuff about, prisons and different areas. And I was looking for jobs, and I've come across a job that Shelter had got, a peer mentor role. And I applied for this job, and I had an interview, and I heard nothing for like months and months. And then I just forgot about it, to be fair. And then one day I got an email on my phone. It was from Emma Prasain, from the Shelter's staff, and she says, we've got this scheme which is run by the L&D team. She says it's a little bit unique in the sense that it's through the NHS. It wasn't actually the role I'd applied for. In a sense, it was a different one. And she says, I remembered you from the interview, she says, and I thought you sort of might fit this sort of bill. Are you interested in, getting involved? And I thought, okay, yes. And I got an interview when it was on my birthday as well. The interview was, I didn't tell them that.
Lucky day.
And I went for it, and it just seemed like everything about it was what suited me. I could understand what they were saying to me, and I could answer the questions the best I could, and I felt like, they were listening to me what I was saying, and I just felt comfortable with it all, and that was how I ended up with it, and here I am still, 22 months in.
More grey hair.
More grey hair.
More, yeah.
So that is how I got to be it. Yeah, so.
Wow, good stuff. I've worked in mental health service user involvement on and off for probably about 15, 20 years. I go off and do other things as well, but I always get drawn back, and part of me getting drawn back is that I have periodic, hopefully not again in the future, periodic episodes of really poor mental health. And actually the first time I had them, I ended up working for a small charity. Cleese just sort of prompted me on this, that it ran these what would be called peer staffed houses that were alternatives to acute mental health wards, and they're sort of managed really well. Funnily enough, and then I've kind of been in and out of there doing various things, and those shut because of a lack of funding. But it was always, if that kind of thing had reopened, I always said to people, I'll be back there in a shop, whatever kind of job or kind of thing I was doing. And then through some service user involvement back with the trust, I got connected up with Liaison and Diversion just to do a little bit of involvement work with them, almost like half a day a week on average, from about 2015. So I wasn't really well connected with what was going on right at the start, but I was getting an inkling of it. But I was mainly working up at Rayside, which is like a medium secure unit. So at that point I was getting interested, as well as working with people with mental health issues, the sort of criminal side and the justice side of things at that point. So when the opportunity came up, and I just, as we're going to talk about this afternoon, I was kind of getting a feel for what was going on with this service. Seemed pretty special, to be honest.
God, I feel like I need to add more because yours was such touching stories.
Yeah. I get it as well with Matt, although he's saying there, that point you were saying was, you'd go back to that shop like tomorrow if it existed. Now, every time I go in Stafford where this cafe was, I mean, it's still empty, the cafes, it's not been used since then. And I walked back and I'm absolutely gutted. I'm devastated. I thought, I can't believe that this is like this. I said when I was there, when everything that happened was positive. And they won awards and everything for it.
Yeah.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was working for these people. It was actually working, yet they stopped it.
I think that's what a lot of the problem in society is. There isn't enough funding to keep these kind of projects going, but these are the projects that's so important. It's not just GP prescribing medication or you having some talking therapy or going to a mental health service or going to a drug and alcohol service that's going to change your life. You need that purpose, that meaning, and these places provide that for people. And also you meet people that are like-minded or understand what you're going through. So there's I did work at a day centre when I was training as a nurse, and it was for older adults, but they loved it because this day centre, it did the medical, giving them their medication, checking their physical obs if it needed to be done. But they offered sessions, so it could be knitting, could be chitter-chatter groups, men's health, women's health. Then they all ate lunch together. But funding closed it, and then they're just left at their own homes with nothing to do, and that's what's going to cause people to deteriorate.
Without a doubt.
I think where my passion lies within the liaison and diversion service is about making change of system provisions in the sense of how services are operated and how do they influence individuals' lives and how do they make that better kind of support package and bringing some stability into their lives. I try to keep that at the forefront by utilising my own lived experience in the criminal justice system to implement that change. And the way I see it is there's organisations and provisions in place, but they're not for the individual or the service user because of the processes and the protocols and the policies behind all of that. And from
The
an
objectives they've got to meet, isn't it? Financial gains.
objectives, and I think from a liaison and diversion perspective, and like I've been a part of the team for 3.5 years, it's such an awesome team, and I think, and I ain't say this because we're doing it for liaison and diversion. I carry liaison and diversion with me and the lead worker peer mental service daily in my day-to-day practice. Because of the stuff that I've learned through the process and attaching my passion alongside it, and what I believe is and what I've seen in my own eyes is the way our services is run and how we put the individual in the centre of that care. And I think from a multi-agency approach, we advocate a lot on our individuals, service users' behalves, because that's where the passion lies. And the way I see it is that could be my family member, or it could be my son, or it could be my sister, or it could be my father or mother. Do you know what I mean? And I think the individuals that do come into these roles, there's a passion behind it. And I think it's an important factor to delivering service, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, what you're saying there, a lot of it. I mean, that is the good thing about, well, the great thing about L&D that I love about L&D so much is the fact is that I'm allowed to put the client to the forefront of what I'm doing. I can put them first. What I need to do is for them. I haven't got to worry about the bureaucracy and the red tape. I know it's about there, I know it's there, I know the structure, but I can still put them there, and I can put them first and foremost in my thoughts and work with them. That's what.
And actually, I think that the system change thing is really important, but it started within the service itself. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, it did.
We've not been a service that's not changed ourselves with those things. Do you know what I mean? Through all the different influences of people that have come into it. And I think that's what then makes it's kind of easier, isn't it? Is to go out and challenge other services because we're prepared to do it ourselves.
I think
Exactly.
another thing that I learned not long ago, and it was a question in one of my qualifications, and I explained the positive risk explained the risk to get a positive outcome. And my example to that was that due to the liaison and diversion service employing people with criminal offences that have got a long history of criminal offences, employing them for a positive outcome to better outcome the individual's care and the engagement kind of element to it, even though the risk is the DBS and the criminal record behind it, but looking beyond that. And I think if the team wasn't passionate enough to implement that change within the service, what you're saying, you wouldn't able to go further with what the objective is. Do you know what I mean? I think that's an important factor.
And I suppose that goes back to people's passion, but also we share the same values, we share the same working practices, we're there for the client, and actually we've gone for what is the best for them. And actually we know from research that's been done, people with lived experience can connect better with other people, so why wouldn't you use that resource? And because we're all on that same page, it's worked so well. Obviously, if people or the service wasn't really for this pathway that we've created, it wouldn't work.
So how do you cope when people come in and out of the team? Because obviously certain team members leave and then you get new ones. How do you think that spirit carries on and you're able to work so well together?
Because some of us just never leave the team.
I think with that, well, it's definitely not about the money anyway. I'll just drop that in there. But no, I think seriously, I mean, with that question, I mean, it's about passion, isn't it? That's what it is. I mean, I think we're all born with a seed of passion within ourselves. And I think the trials and tribulations that you have throughout your life, whatever it may be, whether it be cultural, whether it be educational, whether it be addiction or offending behaviour or anything like that, will determine how much that blossoms as passion within a person. And what you learn from that experience will set the pathway for where you want to be. So the people who are in this sort of role, I'm in this sort of role, it's because I'm passionate about making a difference and making a change, and I want to be here. So if a person leaves, obviously, for whatever reason that may be, I don't know if loss of passion for it or not, because you've got to have it, or a person comes in, you know what I mean, they've got to have that sort of there in place, because I think without it you would struggle.
I actually want to put a different spin to that,
Right.
because a part of being in the liaison and diversion is about following the ethos and the passion and the value that's embedded within that team. And I think the important within that is we've had commissioners leave, we've had service managers leave, not due to the fact that they weren't passionate enough about the job, because it come to that time of their life where they had to leave. But then carrying that transition and the ethos alive, the practitioner that follows, that's been a part of the journey, and the structure behind it keeps that ethos alive. And I think that's an important part. So when people do leave, how do you keep that vision and that guidance that was given alongside the service throughout the process to keep that alive? And the only way that can be done is if your passion's alive, and if people leave, it is what it is.
And I think there's that encouragement of spirit and passion. So I've been in workplaces. This is outside the health service, for example, where you kind of go in. I think when I trained as a teacher, and you go in, you're so enthusiastic. Do you know what I mean? You're just starting this new kind of path, and you can go into some workplaces where there's, you know, and the people have a look, and they'll leave you to that for a little while, but they'll know they're kind of thinking he'll get real at some point, and do you know what I mean? And then get down to that kind of pretty unenthusiastic workplace that's there. But I don't see that in L&D, and I think that's one of the keys. The enthusiasm and passion that people come into the team with is kind of encouraged and nurtured, and so still there. So when new people come in, it kind of gets passed down, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's not like an ordinary 9-to-5 existence.
Well,
where that,
what's important with that is how you was treated when you came into the role, and I think the important factor in that is that you continue doing that for the other person that's coming through that door, and it's creating that vacuum for that individual to progress and potentially grow within that role.
The L&D role, it doesn't suit everybody, and that's not because they're not good enough for the job or they can't do it. It might be that it's just not right for them, because what we do is so different from what others do. You are sometimes a counsellor, sometimes you are discussing, you know, drug and alcohol, sometimes you are helping them look for housing, taking them to the GP, doing their food shops. It's not a clear cut, this is what you do, you know, you're a mental health nurse, you're there to look at their mental health only, look at their medication side effects, and that's it. So the people that come into this role, like when we go through recruitment, we like them to come in, see the service, to meet the staff, because it might not be a right fit for them. So when we're employing, you're not just employing someone to fill that gap of a vacancy, you are looking for the right fit for the clients, for the service, and for the team. We strongly encourage people to come and meet us, because unless you know what we do, you will never know if it's the right job for you, and you can't decide that once you start the job. You kind of need to know a bit about it beforehand. You know, we go through this interview process a lot, because people do go in and out and do move, and often you find that they haven't actually researched anything about what we do and what our role is. So when they're coming to express, you know, answering those questions, you can see they've got some knowledge, but is that passion there, which is what we want? Because if you don't know what we're about, how are you going to show that passion for what we're doing, what kind of clients we're working for, how we work as a team, lived experience? Like, that's the ethos of our team, isn't it? We include service users. We have people that are in the team with experiences of the criminal justice system, mental health, homelessness, and to have someone work in our team, they need to understand that. They need to be open to working with people like this, but also for people with these vulnerabilities.
I think from a lived experience perspective, it was started off with myself and another colleague, and now the 6 of us are part of the team. And that's a beautiful kind of a story behind how much change that has been made within that service, and the value-based kind of approach to it. But I think from a recruitment perspective, individuals do come in contact with the liaison and diversion service and get employed as a liaison and diversion practitioner, and not divert away from what the service has been commissioned to do. Even though you've got mental health and nurse background, but you're a practitioner, so you might be a social worker, we don't look at basically you have to be a mental health nurse, and I think you have to look at all of the vulnerabilities attached to the clientele that we come in contact with within the criminal justice system. And I think the important part of that is, from a recruitment perspective, is that ethos is kept alive and the service is not diverted. Even though we are employed by the Birmingham and Solihull Mental Health Trust, our service is commissioned to work with all vulnerabilities, and that's an important factor within what we're doing.
Yeah.
So how would you say your team and the wider agencies manage to work so well together?
Because we're all brilliant. No, again, it's being open and transparent. We've told people what our service is about, what we do, what potential difficulties we might be facing, because it's not just all the good stuff we do. There are stuff that we find challenges with, and it's actually being open and honest about those and working with those partner agencies to see how we can overcome them. How can we work together to best help our client? And actually, if your two agencies have got the same values, the same service goals, as in what we want for our individuals, then you can work together really well.
Yeah, and I think that's important. You know, I've learned that a lot with the roles since I've been here. How important it is to have other agencies involved and to be on the same sort of page as we are, singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to achieve the same thing for the individual. You know what I mean? And you know, we're trying to make it the easy possible best route to do that, and to have an understanding of each other and to know what we're trying to do, what our ethos are, what our beliefs are, what our problems are. You know, and to work together to solve them can only be beneficial. You know, it can only work. But we do have different opinions about things. You know, we might learn something from somebody else. They might learn something from us. You know, but that's all part and parcel of the multi-agency sort of lived experience and working together to achieve that, I think.
I think from a liaison and diversion perspective, it's all about multi-agency working, because the way the service is and the services that are involved with the criminal justice system, with that one individual, they might have 3-4 services involved. And I think that multi-agency approach, I think what the liaison and diversion service does is bridge that gap within agencies, and that could not just be agencies outside of the trust, but within the trust as well. And I think the important part of it is that we're working in a multi-agency approach, because there's a lot of data and there's a lot of fact behind the fact that when you don't work in a multi-agency approach, there's a lot of serious case reviews, and the reality behind it is that, because some people end up dead or end up killing somebody. And I think the important part of it is we don't work as a multi-agency approach. I think the liaison and diversion can't exist as a service without that multi-agency approach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the L&D side is the important part of the puzzle in that, you know, because the people we deal with do need multi-agency engagement. You know, whether it be probation service, whether it be CMHT, whether it be L&D, whether it be shelter, you know, all these sort of organisations for the individual, they're probably going to be involved in at some point, somewhere. I mean, so we need to be part of that to make, like Samir was just saying, to sort of see the catalyst really, say, well, we're going to make sure that you're getting the right thing, we're going to make sure that you're receiving the right support, we're going to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, you know, I mean, that sort of thing, because this is where the system sort of fails sometimes, because people sort of fall through the gaps then, because it's so easy to fall back into addiction if you feel that nothing's being done. You know, from where I think L&D is good at getting across to people, like in my experience, with clients, are saying, hang on a sec, you're a little bit different to what I've had before. I mean, I've had this, they don't seem to give a toss. Whereas you know, I think that, well, coming on passion, I think that rubs off on them as well. They can see that, they can feel that.
I think the valuable thing that I've seen within the liaison and diversion service from an outreach perspective is how the practitioners are from an outcome perspective. And now I don't mean that outcome by payments, by our results. I'm talking about an outcome that needs to be actioned. And in the sense of, if there's something missing that hasn't been done, the practitioners make sure before any person that's discharged that all of them actions have been met for that individual's needs, for that follow-on care to follow through to another service. And I think that's beautiful in itself, and it's not just about, oh, we got to get an outcome, it's about how is that individual protected within that process, and have you done everything in that power for all of the services, their responsibility and what they're meant to be doing.
That's right. For such a small team, it achieves such a lot of stuff, you know, it's massive. And you're right what you're saying, that, you know, I know that I can talk to Bin, or I can talk to any practitioner and say, look, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, and I know that's going to be chased up, I know that's going to be looked at, I know they're going to find a solution to it, or find out what's going on around it, you know, which is important. You know, that's why we need the practitioners, you know, as us as peer mentors and stuff. So,
you know what? That's Also, the very frustrating thing about our job, that we think it just comes to us. It's our second nature to liaise, to talk to other agencies, yet they don't think that that's important.
No.
I don't get it. I had a case recently where I have gone out. We obviously do see adults and youth. So I've gone out to see a young person, and the parents told me about this person involved, that person involved, that person involved, and I've taken all the details, and I was like, my plan was to liaise with all those people. So why didn't they think of doing this before? How come they are not talking? And I had one person call me up to say, I tell you what, when you've liaised with all those people, can you pass me the email addresses and let me know what they're all doing so I can put it in my report? But why aren't you having the same urgency that I've got to go and liaise with all these people? Why are you relying on me to go and do that when we should have been doing this before I came into the picture? So
Exactly.
it is frustrating as well, but then I suppose that shows our passion to what we're
Exactly.
doing and
I
our
think
job.
it's in its title in itself, isn't
Yeah.
it? Liaison and diversion team.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
But
Our
it
job
does
is to
frustrate
liaise
me.
with people and divert people away from the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It does.
And it's like, I'm not saying no disrespect to any kind of services in any kind of context, but the reality of it is, because, and this is really important within caseloads and having a small number of individuals to work with, because of the complexity that comes with these individuals. And I think a lot of services are so outnumbered with referrals and caseloads and over 30 plus people. There's no equality of work that's going within that process, because what it's becoming is a tick box exercise, and it's a number game. And I think the important bit within the liaison and diversion services, it's about, I think I've had discussions with Bill before where we've had like number of referrals coming through. We can't look at the numbers, we have to look at the quality of the work that we're going to do for the individual.
What are your clients' needs and what are we going to do to get those
Do you know what I
needs
mean?
met?
And that's an important factor. And I think a lot of services, and this isn't like, again, no disrespect to any services, I think it's the way they're being commissioned or the way the management structures are behind all of that stuff. Our service is not run like that. Yes, if we need to do something, our practitioner will have a word, just look here if you miss something out, and it don't come, and it don't come from an angle of we're telling you what to do. We're trying to protect you.
Yes.
I'm trying to get at you there something, and that's an important factor, isn't it, within the service deliverance, that you're protected through each process, and when you're protected through each process, you allow your vulnerability to say, I need help.
And from that, isn't there the stuff about learning and development and growth, isn't there, that comes actually also open? We do learn so much off each other.
Yeah, but I think, again, like Binal says, I mean, and Tamia, and I mean, L&D is unique in the sense is, that we can see what the problem is and we act upon it, try the best we can. But the problem that we do have is that sometimes we can't act upon it alone, and then there's people around there that are supposed to be helping and supporting us and guiding us a little bit, and they're just not doing that. So you're trying to do all you can and more, which is frustrating, and it causes confusion and complicated. And in the long term, when you get in that situation, it ultimately has an effect on the person you're trying to help. Which is really, it sticks with me, and doesn't weigh a little bit.
I think the more I've stuck around, the more responsibility I want toward the organisations and accountability within their role, because once again it's a liaison and diversion service, so you're diverting away from people from criminal justice system for people to take ownership in that individual scale. And I think I'll put clear boundaries in when I'm working with individuals, that this is your remit to do this, but look, how do we work together to do X, Y, and Z, because our role isn't to take care of everything. I'm trying to get out, because that will just burn you out.
But this is our problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but we try to, don't we?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
sometimes
You
because
can't
we're
change the
too
world.
passionate and we really want to help our clients, we feel like it's our responsibility to sort everything out. I mean, the number of times I've said, Cleve, you can't do it all alone. But not just Cleve, but because we've got the staff that want to do everything for their clients. Actually, sometimes we do have to remind the other services that to work together we'll achieve better goals. Otherwise, you will burn yourself out.
It's right, and Matt's the same as I am in a lot of ways in that way, and with the way he does stuff. I mean, I put too much on Matt, I know I do, but like as Biddle says to me, and other people say, you can't change the world, Cleve. And I say, I know I can't change it, but there's nothing stopping me trying, is there? You know what I mean? So, and that's the way it is, unfortunately. Because that will not go away. That can't take that away from me. As much as I'd want to, just.
So So how would you deal with disagreements with other services or disagreements within the team? Because not always.
We don't send Cleve to them. He's there going, I won't say it.
I know,
Because
I'm more
sometimes your
diplomatic now.
opinion differs, doesn't
But
it?
I mean, and that's a strength, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to say that in the last section as well. That that's a strength that we do disagree and see. And I, again, have been in workplaces where people clearly there's a feeling that people don't agree with everything that's being said, but people don't say it, and you get this tension rising, and you get this kind of like not very good compromise with the whole thing trying to move forward.
I think what bothers me more, Matt, is the fact is that if I can see this is the problem and I can see there's a solution to it, why can't you? You know what I mean? In that sort of sense,
Yeah.
when, you know, your role, your position is no different to mine. Well, it is different to mine, but we're all trying to achieve the same outcome here. Yet you can see, I can see there's a problem. Why can't you see it?
But then maybe that is the thing. They don't have the same value base or passions or morals as you do. Maybe they're burnt out. You know, maybe too much has been put on them. As in, there's lots of reasons. But I suppose for what Alex was asking is, when we get into those issues, what are we going to do? So it is to take a step back, sit down. Do we need to create a list, for example, of this is what I'll take responsibility of. Will you take responsibility of this? And work together for that person.
Well, I do that now in a sense
Yeah.
because, for example, I was with a client the other day with another practitioner. There's a couple of things it was a new client that we're going to put in place, but we sort of shared that responsibility in a sense. You know, it's like, okay, well, you do this part of it, and I'll do this part of it. You know what I mean? And it's the same across the board, really. You know, as time's gone on, I tend to sit back now a little bit and have a look and say, well, okay, what is the problem? This is the problem. Can we discuss it and try and put in place, you know, multi-agency meetings and stuff? We can all go our heads together in, say, like professional meetings. Well, what can you do about this situation? What can I do about this situation? You know, and then try and liaise with each other from that point onwards about it. I mean, that's what we need to do. That's what we strive to achieve anyway.
Can I give a little narrative around that?
Yeah.
In the sense of, I've had an individual that I came in contact with in the criminal justice system, a 19-year-old lad that the local authority let down due to his care and stuff like that. I think I was in 5-6 months into my
Payment
role
role, yeah.
and that. And the challenge that I faced was that the accountability and responsibility of the local authority, when they weren't taking it on board, basically to say that there's nothing we can do. And by chasing it up and looking for solutions, because of the 18 plus worker at that time couldn't deal with it at that time, because it was out of her remit, because she said, look, the fundings have been cut, we're only commissioned to do X, Y and Z, it's not like how it used to be and stuff like that. Because who's the person that can deal with this? So me and this woman are humming and hawing for about half an hour in this meeting, and we're not going anywhere with it. And I'm going, look, can we take it to your management then? So she arranged an appointment, we went to the local authority, and the way the manager put her kind of authority onto me, like, who are you? But she already knows, because you know that I'm coming to the meeting, so you already know who I am. It was that, again, coming from a lived experience and how I look as an individual.
Those gold teeth, innit?
So you come to anything, it's like people look at you and they're threatened by the way you look, and that's quite discriminative in itself, isn't it? And then through the process, like I had another staff member with me, through the process, if I didn't push it that further, even though they weren't willing to take acknowledgement at that time, and because we got it minuted and making sure that we're following the whole process of that discussion, the local authority at the end wrote a letter of apology to the individual to say, we let you down in your care in this time because of somebody else's fault. So they admit the fault, they blame onto somebody else at the same time to come trying to get it. You know, that happens standardly, yeah? But at the same time, the outcome was a greater outcome for that individual, because he basically wanted to sue them because they didn't do what they meant to be doing for him. And I think that's a narrative that I actually trying to hold on to, because sometimes you have to go beyond.
It's mad though, isn't it, to me, because obviously you've done that, you've done really, really well, and the outcome was great and with all that, but there's that period of time, you know, before you stood in, you know, if you hadn't stood in there, for example, then what would have happened?
And what about people that
You
don't
know,
have a Samir in their life?
Exactly, you know what I mean, what would have happened to that person? And there's many of them, you know what I mean, there's many of them. I mean, this is the problem that's there, and it's a problem that people can see is there as well, you know, people that matter. You know, you're saying to me, like I'm saying, well, who are you? Do you know what I mean? Well, you know, I'm somebody who can see the same situation that you can see. You know, if I'm willing to speak about it, you're not. Yeah, you've probably got more power to do something about it than I have. You know what I mean? That sort of sense. And that's the problem I have with a lot of this the system and the way it is. because it's the long-term effects, the little things like that you know, like Samir, if Samir hadn't stood in as he did, what would have happened to that individual? You know, it doesn't always work, it doesn't always turn out right, but
you have to look at the context behind it, where it's come from.
yeah.
One of our practitioners identified that he needed a lived
Exactly.
experienced person to work with this individual. Because, and when we went into the court, it was a Birmingham Crown Court matter, and this individual was going to go to custody, and if one of our practitioners didn't identify the individual's vulnerabilities within her screening, and then she could on a court report for the district, the judge that was sitting in the court, and basically the judge turned around and he says, the only reason I'm not sending you to prison is because you've got people sitting in this room today supporting you.
And that's right. I've
And
had that
that's the
myself.
difference in liaison and diversion service. So it started from there. What I done was a follow on from what was started. The important bit is, like some of these services that we're going to come across stumbling blocks with, and I think the important bit is, as long as we continue doing what we're doing to make it better for that individual, whatever the outcome is going to be, it's going to be. But as long as we know we've challenged some of that way of thinking.
Yeah, that's right. And you sorry, Matt, you've been there with me, Samir, in court. I've been in the court with you yourself when we've had clients that have come through practitioners, you know, and we've been there, and the judges have come there and they've said, right, they're going to send that person down, they're going to send that person to prison. But we stood up, like, well, hang on a sec, this is what we're doing, this is what liaison diversion's doing, and they've changed that judge's mind in doing that, because hold on a sec, you've got this sort of support around you. And he's like, I've had the same response you've had from the judges. The only reason I'm releasing you today is because you've got that support there, and you need to keep engaging with that support. If you don't, then obviously, you know, you will go to prison, you know. But that is the beauty of it all. You know, we do make a difference. We can make a difference, but there's other people can also. You know, it's not just all us, is it? No, you know, it is. You know, we'll do it. We know we're doing it. We know we're trying to achieve it. But there's other people that can help that. You know.
Yeah, and I think increasingly the team's got a confidence around that as well. Do you know what I mean? I know I necessarily come from backgrounds and services where to keep raising things about other services has not always felt the right thing to do. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem politic. Whereas if you do it with a good intention, which I think we do, we encourage each other to do it. And that can be difficult at times. And I think there's, with that as well, there's also the support of everybody around the team when you might expose yourself, vulnerability, when you are sort of raising things, you know, and maybe speaking truth to power at times.
Yeah.
So, when you hit your stumbling blocks and when you've come to your end of your tether, how do you renew that passion?
That's you know what
I
was
don't
just
think you ever
thinking,
lose it. I don't, you know.
it's strange, isn't it? But just by speaking to each other, something ignites passion again. It's really weird. Like the way that our team works, you could be feeling really crap and down one day and ranting, and your team allows you to do that without judging you. But then the next day something can happen and you'll go out and do visits, and then you'll be like, oh my God, I've had the best day ever today again. And it's just who you're working with that reignites that, and it's, you don't have to do anything but just be there.
Yeah,
the presence.
and getting good outcomes as well. You know, things, you know, going into court and, like, you know, going to probation or getting somebody, like, you know, instead of getting sent down, they've got like a 10-day RAR or a 20-day RAR, or somebody's like stayed on the script, you know what I mean, or somebody's kept their accommodation, and, you know, the good points, the positive side of it, because we do get some of it. It's not all, you know, doom and gloom, not all difficult. We do have clients that have moved on and done well.
I've been in situations where my passion is like, you know, I've come to a stumbling block thinking there's no way to maneuver from this, and what I've done is I've took a step back and I've reflected on my practice. You know, I'm trying to get at, and what I've done through that process is reevaluate everything that's going on with me as an individual. So is it work? Is it home life? What is actually going on for me that I'm feeling like this? Because there's something going on, because I'm not usually like this. And I think when your team members point certain things out to you, so I've been through a couple of scenarios in recent times and that, where somebody's pointed something out to me and I'm thinking, wow, I didn't even see that. Because I was that in it in self. Do you know what I'm trying to get at? I couldn't see the wider picture. And by removing myself out of the situation or taking some time out, allowed me that space to regrow my passion again, because I felt like I was on my own. But the reality, if I was on my own, I wasn't asking for the right help. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
And
that's the reality of it.
You hit it on the head there. When we are feeling a bit low, or like our motivation isn't there and we've lost our bit of spark, it is our colleagues that notice it, which shows that we've worked that well together that we can pick up on these things. And even that, come on, let's just go and grab some lunch. Let's just have 5 minutes away from here. Let's go for a little walk. Whatever it is, and then you feel a bit more calm, relaxed. And actually, if it's still not working, you do say, do you need some time off? You know, or do you need to be doing some different type of work and then come back to this, and while then I'll support your caseload, or whatever it is that you need to do. And actually we work really well like that.
And that's the beautiful thing, isn't it? Because allowing to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is one of them things is driven by fear, yeah? Do you know what I mean? Would you agree, yeah? And the reality is, when you want to speak to somebody about how you're feeling, it's quite awkward and hard to do because of the confidences and the insecurity within that. But I think the atmosphere we have created as a team allows you that space. Okay, you know what, I'm feeling like this, and you know what, when you're going having a conversation with a practitioner or SDR, even a peer mentor, and explaining, look, I can identify with this because I've been through the same process, and that allows transparency and honesty within the individual. And I think that's the important part of working collectively together and being open and transparent about what's going on with you, and not like you're gonna feel like you're getting judged. And I think that's the kind of atmosphere that's built within our team, and that's my experience. I don't know about everybody else's experience, but that's been my experience.
Well, it's the emotional work, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's something that me and Bill have been supporting a few weeks ago, and it was, and we know the individual, and a lot of people in the team know and like the individual, and we're very invested. And it was emotional. It was emotional from that person's point of view. I know from
point of view.
your point of view, and then we went down to the court, and there was tears there from both staff and the person involved. Do you know what I mean? But we allow ourselves to do that, and I think we know where the limits of that is as well.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, passion, you know, for me anyway. I mean, I thrive on it in the sense is that, you know, what keeps me motivated. And when I do feel like it's slipping away a little bit, like Sabine was saying and stuff like that, it does happen. You know, I reflect a little bit on things, you know what I mean? A lot of my own sort of experiences, you know what I mean? Because I've said to everybody, said before, nothing surprises me, you know what I mean, in senses of terms of, you know, what's happened in people's lives, what's happened in my own life and stuff. So, you know, I've got enough to go on and reflect on to keep driving that passion and bring it back within myself, because I firmly believe, you know, that I need that, and I firmly believe that with that I can make a difference to people's lives. You know, it might only be 1-2 people, but that's better than none at all, isn't it? Yeah. And that's what keeps me going. You know, and that's what keeps my passion going when it's starting to get deflated a little bit. Just like I say, reflecting back and thinking, well, you've got over these obstacles before, you've got through this before, you've done that before. There's nothing really, no reason why you can't do this again. And plus, with the help of like you say, your colleagues, going out with people, talking to people, sitting down, having your one-to-ones, you know, when you do your caseloads, I mean, they're great.
Winding you up, calling you
but,
grumpy.
But these things are good though, because it takes that fun, that banter away from it. It relieves you that, you know what I mean? Like the case studies that we've been on are great. You know, the one-to-one with, well, I call them interrogations. You
with
know
Christine.
what I mean? Like, Christine, you know, I mean, they're great.
Wait, did we get that right? So the ones with me are one-to-ones, the ones with Christine are interrogations, or do you mean the combined joint one?
You know, when they get both together, that's like super interrogation. But you know, what I mean? But it's there because there's that many stuff, the little things that are bothering you. You go and you can speak about them, and you can talk about them, and you can tell them about them, and they're there to listen and give you a solution, or you know, or an ear to listen to it anyway. So there's that. There's all that. Everything within the team, and the team you've got is full of passion, isn't it? It's there. It'd be very difficult to lose it and not get it back within this team, I think.
I agree. I think it'd be
really
hard.
I mean, I'm not saying you can't get a little bit down. We can, because you know we all get gutted when something happens to one of our clients and stuff. You know what I mean? We're gutted that this has happened. Now we didn't want that to happen, but we have to build ourselves up, and you need your team around you to do that.
At times as well, I'm going to finish on this one, but like self-sabotage as well.
Yeah.
And it's an important factor to look at in the sense of from a competency perspective, and that where your competency levels are quite high, but you self-sabotage yourself in the sense of, because you're used to doing that work on a day-to-day basis, it don't feel like it's a lot of work, and you might think I might actually, do you know what I mean? But that's that psychological way of looking at things, isn't it? But the reality of it is your competency levels are so high, and the work that you do, somebody else come into that role, that will be overburdening for them.
True.
Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Because I guess we underestimate what we do sometimes.
Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for anyone who's struggling or those who'd like to be involved with working with L&D?
Find enough information, get involved with everybody and everything that's involved with the L&D services, you know, what it's about, addiction, you know, mental health, offending. Use your own experience with it as well. Use that, you know, don't think that what worked for you will work for somebody else, you know, use the wider picture, the bigger picture. That's what I'd say. But, you know, believe that you can do that. Believe that, you know, belief is a big thing within this sort of role.
And I think, like, a big thing for us is come and visit us, come and see what we do.
Yeah.
We don't mind showing people around, telling them the kind of work we do, you know, introducing them to other organisations. We've got the Justice Network that anyone's open to come to.
I think for people who are struggling with things generally in life is again to reach out to people. There'll be someone somewhere who can start to link things together for you. For people applying, I guess it's thinking around and considering all of your life experience and lived experience as well as your working experience and professional experience.
Some people are embarrassed of their lived experience or ashamed of it, and actually there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of you. You know, talk about it. That no one's gonna. Well, people shouldn't judge you on it, and actually we won't judge you. So if you did want to talk, or you do want to unload, or you know, use those experiences that have happened in a positive way to turn your life around. There's always something out there or someone out there that is willing to help.
Yeah, come to us. Nothing will surprise us.
I think if anybody that's going to come into the liaison and diversion, I'm only talking about Birmingham and Solihull mental health and that. I feel personally that you will be welcomed. You will feel like you're a part of the team, and I think the passion that drives the team, you would see that visually. So that's one point. And what was the second point of that question?
Anyone who's struggling or anyone who wants to be involved with L&D.
I wasn't going to say, do one.
That's not the right answer, is it?
I want to be a bit of humour too. But
Yeah.
the reality, if anybody is struggling and they need support, once again, you know what, access that support. If anyone needs to talk to us as a service or they're contemplating coming to service and they've got fears around being a part of the service, all you have to do is ask and make contact. And like again what you said, been all about the Justice Network, come and present there or see what it's all about, really working as a team from a multi-agency approach. So
There's always a solution. Always. Yeah.
And that's it for today, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. Be sure to check out our monthly podcast, and if you want to reach out, you can contact us via our Criminal Justice Liaison and Diversion Team webpage at bsmhft.nhs.uk. If you are someone who's been affected by any of the topics covered, please remember you can access help. Information for our services is listed on our website.